Hey, looks like we're live by the miracle of YouTube. Hey, don't know if anybody's here yet, but welcome to Geordie Stripping the Dipping. And tonight we are live on YouTube for a chat, another chat with Ryan McCallum. Thank you to anybody who shows up tonight because somebody tells me there's a big soccer football game on tonight. I don't know. Our English cousins are doing something somewhere. So thank you if you're here. So without further ado, let's bring on board our guest tonight, Ryan McCallum. Ryan, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks very much for joining us here this evening. Great to have you back on the show.
Yeah. No, it's great to be chatting with you after a very crazy few months leading up to the Canadian Grand Prix and the Canadian Grand Prix. So it's nice to have some time to sort of, I don't want to say put your feet up because the fun never stops, but have a little bit of a breather.
Yeah, I suppose there's that. I suppose all the work overlaps, but I suppose there is that sort of brief period after the race where you can go before it all goes crazy again.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, actually I'm sure we'll get into it, but like the main there's 3 or 4 big events that me and my company are involved with, but the next one on the calendar for us, although we have clients like almost at every race, but the next big one is in Austin, Texas, which is in October. So people are like, "Oh, you got the next few months off." I'm like, "Yeah, if it was only that easy." Not quite.
Oh dear. Brilliant. Here, for anybody who hasn't seen you before, doesn't know you before, first of all, I could probably recommend go back and check out the episode you did with the guys before, Stripping and Dipping Season 2, Episode 27, where the guys caught up with you last time. But as a small refresher for folks joining us here this evening, how would you introduce yourself? If I met you at a party, who is Ryan? Pleased to meet you.
Well, it depends on how many drinks I'd had at the party. No, I'm only kidding. So my name, of course, is Ryan McCallum. I run my own company called Canada Sport Marketing, and we work on behalf of Formula One as an authorized Paddock Club distributor. So meaning we sell Paddock Club passes for races, but not only that, that's only one small piece of the puzzle. We're all at the events, essentially managing our clients, making sure things go smoothly. So it's sort of like a one-stop shop from A to Z. When you're ordering Paddock Club passes, they certainly are not cheap. So often people want to have like a main point of contact from the start to finish, and that's sort of what we offer, rather than, oh, something didn't go right, I'm going to call an 800 number. No, there's none of that. Everyone has my cell phone number.
It's just something that crosses my mind. You're a reseller, or you're involved in a Paddock Club for Canadian Grand Prix in Austin, as you're saying. How much of what happens at the Paddock Club at the Canadian Grand Prix is designed with your input, or does the Paddock Club essentially roll around the world with a preset format? Or can you build it to your client's specs to be local?
As much as I would like to say I have a bunch of, it's all customized to me in Canada, really that it's not, but that's actually a really good thing. The Paddock Club, essentially the Paddock Club is run by Formula One, not by the actual race promoter. So if you wanted to if you want to host clients at the Canadian Grand Prix, they have a few options. You can obviously do the grandstand tickets, or the local hospitality options, as we call them, which is through the promoter, which can really be customized. But then the Paddock Club, which is run through Formula One, is very it's very specific, and it's almost I want to say the exact same thing, but same blueprint at every single race, which is great, which people love. A lot of our clients will go to 3, 4, 5 races a year, and they just love the Paddock Club because they know what they're getting. It's almost like if you find if you find a restaurant that's a chain, and all of a sudden you find it on the other side of the world, you're like, oh, I know exactly what I'm getting.
The menu I know, the wine list I know, just the experience,
Yeah, and yeah, so some people think, that's kind of boring. It's the same old thing everywhere. No, but like, there's no such thing as the same old thing in the Paddock Club with all the different benefits that it includes. I mean, from obviously having the best seats in the house, literally like right over pits. When we were in Canada, we were just right over the McLaren pit and the Ferrari pit. And then having
Very good for race day.
yeah, and it was it was great, and because it was raining and the pits were, there's a lot of action. And then, you know, whether it be like drivers coming up and chatting with the guests, or going on track tours, or, I mean, when we say it's the same old thing at every race, it's definitely not the same old thing. It's the same pretty
Same
cool
exceptional thing.
Exactly.
Yes. Brilliant. And with I guess you get a lot of different type of guests. And you say about people who would follow the racing around the world to a certain extent, or make it their holidays, and would do the Paddock Club in different locations. But I suppose you've got to cater to a lot of different people, to racing fans with a few bob to spend, but also corporate guys who are maybe going to it because it's a big event. And maybe instead of the football final or the tennis final, it's just a corporate do. Would that be a mix that you would find?
Yeah, and yeah, there's definitely there's a lot of people in the Paddock Club that maybe don't even know about don't know much about Formula One. It's their first experience, but I mean, once they've been there, they're essentially hooked. But I mean, I always say, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something right if you've been invited to the Paddock Club, whether it be for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, because
you're winning at something.
Yeah, you always make new fans if they're there for the first time, but you do have a number of clients that will buy 2, 4, 6 passes that they call it the bucket list purchase, right? Where they've been waiting their whole life to do it, and like those people, I love to see them there, because it's just like the smile on their face is it's huge from day one till the checkered flag on day 3. It's just it's a really cool experience for them, and just to see their expressions is great.
Yeah, and the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is such a fantastic location as well. It's a very European race in the new world. It always gives a great race, and no doubt in person, but certainly on TV, it always looks like a great location for a motor race. And it's a very special place, because it's kind of in North America, the new frontier of Formula One, but it has that tradition and heritage and that old school look to it. It's pretty special, I think.
Yeah, totally. And we love, and so I'm based in Toronto, which is about a 5 or 6 hour drive, because I drive there every year. I mean, I fly throughout the year, but I'll drive there. So like, I love going to Montreal because of how much history there is in Formula One, and everyone's so into the culture of F1. Obviously, you mentioned the name of the track, named after Gilles Villeneuve, who's Jacques Villeneuve's father. So Jacques Villeneuve is usually hanging around the Paddock Club. I mean, we must have bumped into him at least 20 times throughout the weekend. But yeah, the track itself is great. And what some people don't know is it's actually based on an island, which was like a man-made island made back in the 60s, I believe. And it's right outside downtown Montreal. So you can see literally the skyline of Montreal in the background of the track. So I know some of the F1 races I love to watch in Europe. It's amazing tracks and hills and that type of thing, but they're sort of out, quote unquote, in the middle of nowhere. In Montreal, you get a bit of both. You have that, you have a pretty cool track layout, and you're pretty much, you can jump on the metro or the subway and be back downtown Montreal in 10 or 15 minutes.
Perfect. And it's crazy, because it's been this Formula One race for 45 years now, and in a way, it's a perfect template for what Liberty would want to roll forward, you would imagine. A great racing venue with the metropolitan area and the great public transport added with heritage, so it's it's the race of the future, never mind the race of the present.
Yeah, and another cool thing about it is the whole, again, because it's got that history that we're talking about, the whole city really gets behind it. So there's a few downtown festivals occurring during the Grand Prix weekend as well. So the streets are closed off. So all the big fancy hotels that like a lot of the drivers stay at the Ritz-Carlton, which, believe me, I'm not really giving away any secrets. When you walk out front of it, when you walk out front of it on the Grand Prix weekend, there's probably 400 or 500 people standing there waiting to get autographs. But like, for example, where the Ritz-Carlton and a few other hotels are, it's close to where streets are blocked off and there's F1 activations everywhere and stages and entertainment. It's just like you cannot be in Montreal during the Grand Prix weekend and not get caught up in it. It's pretty incredible.
Excellent. And you say you're involved with Austin as well, in a similar sort of capacity?
Yeah, and sorry, and just to, I mean, I know I've sort of gone on, but to finish your very first question that you asked, I mean, so there's the we'll go back to that. So in addition to being the Paddock Club distributor, which is the main part of what I do, we also work on behalf of the Canadian Grand Prix and some of the US promoters on the sponsorship side of things, where we're helping bring in local sponsorship to the events. So on top of hosting the clients throughout the weekend, we're also helping bring sponsorships to life on the ground. I mean, we really obviously heavily rely on the sponsorship teams from each of the races, but we're there essentially helping to bring on the new business and sort of bringing those relationships to the track. So that's something in the past we've done in Austin and in Montreal, is helped out on the sponsorship side of things. Actually, to go very far back, the whole reason I got started in this whole Paddock Club side of things is I was a full-time employee back in the day with the Canadian Grand Prix on the sponsorship side of things. So I've sort of never really left that, but working instead of for the Grand Prix, we're working on behalf of the Grand Prix and working on behalf of F1 on the Paddock Club side. So it's sort of there's a lot of moving parts, but at the end of the day, it's, hey, you're at the race and you're juggling a few different balls.
Indeed. I'm sure it's crazy for you. Good to see a few folks have tuned in. Excellent. Good to see a few comments coming in. Somebody commenting, how the Grand Prix is obviously really good for the local economy. And I'm sure, again, just building into what I was saying about the race itself being an excellent model, it's giving back to the community, obviously, as well. It's a great asset. Again, a great asset to have something in a city like that, rather than, you were saying, some place in the desert that happens, or somewhere in Europe that's way outside a city where a local economy doesn't benefit so much from all these visitors. Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's in Montreal, definitely the location is key. The one sort of crazy thing that we've had for the last 3 years in Montreal is bad weather. Well, if you want to call it bad weather, if you're a diehard F1 fan, it's great weather. Because you see all the different tire strategies and the different pit stops. I mean, I know, and believe me, we have lots of fans that go to Monaco and they all absolutely love it. But there was some drivers commenting after, well, the best driver, I won't give a hint of who that was, the guy who was always finishing first, saying it was a bit of a boring race, right? There was like maybe one lead change. In Montreal, because we've had such crazy weather the last few years, it's been a very exciting race on the track. Off the track, listen, our Paddock Club clients always stay dry. But looking over across into the grandstand, where people are wearing their rain jackets and looks like they've been sitting there for like 6 hours, I often feel for them. But they will usually take the wet environment over, just so they get a good race.
Yep. I think it's maybe something, again, that feeds in back to my feeling that it's kind of a European race in a way. It's sort of, I'm from Ireland, so it's not bad weather, it's just weather. So there's, a very Celtic sort of climate sort of seems to be happening around the Canadian Grand Prix this last few years.
Absolutely. But we laugh, we joke, because like leading up to the Montreal Grand Prix that just occurred, it was probably sunny for 2 weeks straight. We're like, absolutely beautiful. The world's gonna have the eyes on the race. And then, of course, the few days of the race, pouring rain. And then, ironically enough, I think the Monday afternoon after F1 was like all leaving, like the sun came out. It's just the way it goes.
It's the F1 gods just sending the right weather just to spice things up for us.
Exactly. But yeah, so and again, I'll answer. Yeah, Austin, you asked about, which is
Yeah.
obviously a lot different than the Montreal race. I've been attending that race in some capacity, whether it be helping out on sponsorship or Paddock Club since it started, which is what, 12 or 13 years ago now. And yeah, that one's a lot of fun. We help out in the Paddock Club and do some of the team Paddock Club sales there as well. So it's a really cool race, and that one, it's a new venue, but I personally really like the track layout and the way that they've done it. I mean, look, a lot of people compare it to the other two U.S. races, Miami and Vegas, and for pure race enthusiasts, you can't even compare.
There's no comparison. No, there's no comparison.
Circuit of the Americas is where it's at.
Yeah, it's well named. It's fantastic. And again, sort of, you're involved with the Montreal race, and you're involved with Austin as well. Such a big comparison to not just Miami, but Vegas has come along since you were last talking to the guys or whatever. It's a very different kind of thing. Is a race like Vegas and the business opportunities around it something that excites you, or is there a part of you as a racing fan perhaps who goes, it's maybe a step too far? It's what do you think? What do you make of Vegas?
Well, ironically, I mean, Vegas is one. We actually just about an hour ago had a call with the organizers of Las
Okay, I'll withdraw that question, and you're fine. Keep yourself okay. Don't burn any bridges on my behalf. You're okay. You're all right.
No, but listen, I mean, our role is, I mean, I'm based in Canada, and we want to bring, as I said to them, as many crazy Canadians down to that race as possible, right? Because we love a good time, and we love an F1 race. But that sort of goes back to your question. Are the people going to that race for the entertainment value, like off the track, just because you're in Vegas, or are they going because it's a good race? I think when people went the first year, it was more about, I just want to see the spectacle. It's going to be crazy, but it ended up being a pretty amazing race from start to finish, especially towards near the end. So I think that surprised a lot of people in saying, okay, this was just supposed to be a big, entertainment type thing, but there's actually some pretty darn good racing going on. So that is good. That's a good pitch for the people who are like, oh, this isn't a real F1 race. Well, the racing was better than probably half the races last year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, best of luck with Vegas. Yeah, you get some crazy Canadians down there. You get a bit more heart into the Vegas Grand Prix to match the on-track acting.
Exactly. And don't forget, we still have one driver, Lance Stroll. I mean, he's hasn't been on the podium in a while, but he's I think he's in top 10, like in the top 10 in points right now, which is nice to see. I mean, he's just quietly sort of finishing within the points each race. So it's nice to bring you see some Canadian flags when you're not in Canada down there supporting your driver.
But it'll help feed in, because that consciousness with the wider general public would help. Perhaps it always helps the races if there is that local interest in it.
Yep, for sure.
Yep.
And then the only other one we haven't talked about is Miami. I mean, where we're certainly not involved on the sponsorship side of things. Actually, they have a very strong team there, because the Miami race is owned by the Miami Dolphins, same ownership group. So talk about having an army of people ready to go. But we are certainly involved on the Paddock Club side of things. Always have a number of clients down there, and it's good. I enjoy that one because we're not doing any of the sponsorship side of things. It's get to breathe a bit easier down there. Although we're juggling a lot of balls in the Paddock Club there, it's a fun one to go to for us.
Very good. Yeah, it must be crazy, because if you've got the responsibility of guests on one side, and you've got your sponsor activations and things happening on the other side, it must be an absolutely mad weekend for you in Canada or Austin or wherever.
Yeah, I always say it can only be in one place at once, right? And I do like, depending on the race, we'll have like quite a few people actually working on our behalf, which is nice, because if someone, for example, at the Canadian Grand Prix, It's an area called the beach zone, which is essentially a fan zone, which probably takes 45 minutes to walk to from the Paddock Club. And
is anybody going to walk for 45 minutes from the Paddock Club?
Well, one of our staff,
all of them staff.
I think it's called voluntold. They were voluntold to go see what was going on over there. But that almost turned into half their day. Like, really, because you're 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back, you're hanging out with the client for 30, 40 minutes. Next thing you know, you're like, where did half the day go? So yeah, that's the thing. You got to be time management is definitely key. And one thing that I've sort of learned to try and get better at is delegating, because I mean, like, back in the day, I'd be like, yep, I'll be there. And then next thing you know, 3 hours later, where did Ryan go? So.
Well, we've got all these races now in North America. We've got 3 in the United States, and we've got Mexico, and we've got Canadian Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. Where do you think North America is sitting now? In terms, do you think there's room for anything more? Is there too much happening? Because there's been a big US push, I guess, off the back of Drive to Survive and Haas and perhaps Andretti or whatever. But where do you think we're sitting at? Are we just about right in the Americas, do you think? Yeah,
I personally, just because I'm involved a lot, on the Paddock Club sales side of things. So you kind of see like things. It was when Miami first started out a few years ago. That's when it was like the ultimate, like, everyone was coming out of COVID, and Drive to Survive was hyping up the series. And that was like, I always say, like, it was an inventory problem. Like, we couldn't find inventory to sell because everything was sold. F1 is definitely still like very in high demand, but I think because there is Austin, Miami, Vegas now, it's still in high demand, but not as high as it was. So I would personally say you're good with 3, but I mean, this is me, an authorized distributor. Obviously, I'm not making that decision, but I'm sure if a new race were to pop up, I think the rumors are like looking into Chicago or New York. I'm sure they say it's the new sparkly toy, right? I'm sure that it would sell out immediately, and we'd be very busy there. But only people on our side of the business that are paying a premium to be in the Paddock Club, I mean, they're only going to go to so many races, especially in one country, right? They might say, okay, this year we're going to Silverstone and we're going to Canada and we're going to do one US race. They have to pick which one that is. Can't go to them all. You're
just going to spread them thinner. It's different, maybe, if they're in different regions for local fans, making them more accessible. But your clientele, you're really just spreading them thinner because, as you say, they're going to want to do something in Europe, do something in the Middle East, have experiences.
On the flip side, even though we're based in Canada, I mean, now we do have a number of clients like that are local. Like, Miami is a good example of, like, we have a lot of people who are like live in the state of Florida that now attend the Miami Grand Prix, which I don't think they would ever have attended a Paddock Club Grand Prix in their lifetime, but now they're going for the last couple of years. So I feel like those are like these new fans, local fans that you've got hooked now, right? That are going to be there. So that's sort of the flip side. But whereas you have the other guy who maybe lives in New York City, which isn't near any F1 race, and he's just being selective on what ones he's going to go to.
Yeah. Do you see your client profile changing? You've been doing this a number of years now. Do you see the same type of people finding it anew, or are you seeing new generations, new demographics coming to you for the Paddock experience?
Overall, if I were to just generalize like what the demographic is and the corporate crowd, it's pretty similar, but like the turnover, since, in the past few years has been incredible. Like, just seeing like the number of new companies that are getting involved that you would have never imagined. Like, I won't say the company, but one who does a bunch of stuff with us. I remember like 4 or 5 years ago when we would call on them, they'd say, well, we just don't get involved with motorsports because it's a dangerous sport. We don't want to associate with it. And now every year, like we want to make sure we can get a renewal. And like, it's funny how things have changed. So like, that has changed in our perspective, where there's a lot of new companies involved in F1. And also, like, listen, I can't take almost any credit for that. A lot of that too is the teams that have sponsors, right? They're bringing in all these new companies, and maybe they don't. Maybe they have some passes in the team Paddock Club, and they need other passes in the Paddock Club that we're at. So it's really a big result of just the success of Formula One off the track.
Yep. And I guess as well, there's the safety thing. You know, people feel now that it's a safer sport and a safer bet. I guess also, as motorsport generally has been trying to be more sustainable and trying to sort of get with the times in terms of environmental concerns or whatever, I suppose that frees up some concerns maybe that some corporations might have had about motorsport even just a handful of years ago.
Totally, yeah. And F1, as I'm sure you know, like they're very proactive in with all the different environmental sustainability causes that they're working towards. So yeah, that's good. It just, anytime you can make the case to a company that, okay, because you know, and anybody, you only have so many, call it sponsorship or hosting dollars to go around, right? Which one is the, I don't want to say the easiest, but makes the most sense for the company, right? If you can go to something that's a no-brainer, because
and that's where you come in, just make it smooth and easy, and it's sign on the line and we'll make the experience happen.
Yeah, exactly. You should be working for us.
Call me. Oh dear. But that's what it's about, isn't it? It's the swan thing. Leia will just see everything gliding along the surface, and you guys are paddling like hell to make sure it all happens.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like anything. Have a big smile on your face, no matter how many. We always say, like, it's almost like you're a fireman at the race, because you're putting out fires left, right, and center.
Yep.
No matter how many fires are burning in the background, just keep that smile on your face.
Oh dear. Well, obviously you've been involved around the source corporate side of motorsport and other sports. How much of a motor racing fan are you, or is there any time to really be involved in any sense with motorsport purely for pleasure when there's so much business happening?
Yep. I mean, well, the funny part is like I have to, like, I don't know what the proper word, TiVo, record. I have to record the race. Whenever I'm at a race, I have to record it and watch it when I get home, because everyone's like, "Oh, you were at the race. What did you think of this, that, and the other?" Lap 3, I'm like,
there was a champagne shortage. I just didn't see the pit stops.
Yeah. But like literally, you never get a chance to look at the track. And that's why I always say, anyone who wants to like be in our industry is like, don't do this because like you want to have like a front row seat to the race, because you're never going to watch it. But yeah, but in terms of like being a fan, definitely a fan. When I started out, which is like many years ago now, 16 or 17 years ago in this industry, to be honest, I was not a huge fan of Formula One. Being based in Toronto, in Canada here, the big series here was IndyCar, like what Andretti's in right now. And there's still an IndyCar race in Toronto, the Honda Indy Toronto, which is in July, which I'll be going to as not a fan, but a guest, which is nice. It's nice to walk around and like see people running around. You're like, it's nice that that's not me for once.
And I bet you're also going, well, that's a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah. That green room works. Yeah, well, always. Which company did these canapes?
Absolutely. But now definitely a big fan of Formula One. I mean, I think even if I wasn't working in it, I would be, just because how the sport has taken off. Yeah. The way, I know I've mentioned a couple of times, but it's just so obvious, is the way that the Netflix special Drive to Survive just sort of showed the personalities of the drivers to people. Like before that series, I mean, you just kind of looked at, Carlos Sainz was just a Ferrari driver. He's just this guy in a Ferrari. That's all he is, right? Now you see all behind the scenes and what they're like. So that, it's funny because we get to see the drivers at the races in the back paddock. If our guests are back there, meeting them, taking selfies, that type of thing. But the whole reason why I think I've become more of a fan is just actually watching that Netflix series, just like everyone else has.
Mm-hmm.
It's really helped in that regard. But I mean, I do my dad. I've heard a lot of stories like this, but my dad, when I was growing up, he would always be up early on a Sunday watching the F1 races in Europe, right? Because of the time change. And that's when I got my first sort of taste of it.
It's always special when you have to make the effort like that, you know, because I look back fondly when I was a kid of having to get up at 3 a.m. for Japan or somewhere like that. Those things always stick with you if you have to make that wee bit of effort to see it.
Absolutely. Because you're like, what else am I going to do up at this hour, right? You got to really be dialed into this race. But yeah, definitely a big fan of Formula One now. And I'd say a little bit of a fan of IndyCar still at this point. And then, I mean, NASCAR is still got some I mean, obviously I'm very biased, but it's still pretty popular in North America. So you get to watch a little bit of that as well. Those are sort of like the top three that I pay attention to in motorsports right now. And I know there's a lot of other series, especially in Europe and like MotoGP and all that type of thing. But really, those are the three ones that I pay attention to.
Very good, very good. Perhaps you should look towards sports car racing. Maybe the WEC and Le Mans maybe needs a bit of North American sparkle to the whole hospitality side of things. Not that they're not doing a fantastic job already, but new markets and all that.
Yeah. Hey, you never know. We could put another put another thing on our plate and away we go.
Oh dear. So motorsport, any particular favorite drivers when you were a kid? Your dad got you into it, I guess. Who caught your eye?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, this is going to be the most generic answer you'll ever hear, but I have to give my real answer is obviously Schumacher, like with all those titles. And I often think of that like with kids, well, not kids now with Verstappen and maybe 4 or 5 years ago with Lewis Hamilton. Like, was that just obvious, had to be your favorite driver? But like it did for me. And I know it was a lot different back then because there's no social media and that type of thing. So drivers didn't have their own Twitter pages. You just read the headlines, right? And it was always Schumacher. So always loved hearing when he would win and the celebrations. That was always very cool to see. And then my favorite driver has always been Lewis Hamilton. Always. Yeah. So it's not changed. Even he got a podium this past weekend, which is nice.
Yeah, and he was scrapping it out in Canada as well. Him and George on hammer and tongs like the old days. Yep.
When George passed him, like again, I saw this on TV later. When George passed him with 4 or 5 laps to go, I was like, oh man, I really wanted to see Lewis on that podium there. But I mean, finishing 4th in Canada and then 3rd in this past race. I mean, Mercedes definitely has something going right for them. So it's be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes for them.
Yeah, they're getting there eventually. And as a formula settles down, we're seeing the grid compress, and we're seeing lots of people much more competitive now. That's great. In a way, it's going to be a pity that we have a new formula coming in 26 to probably spread them all out again.
Yeah, it's fine. Yes, as soon as everyone figures it out, right? Spread them all out again. But
for 100 years.
Yep. McLaren for sure has been taking huge steps, and it's good to see Lando. He won in Miami when we were there, which was
yes.
Yeah, it was talk about a guy like grin to grin like that, huge smile on his face, seeing him celebrating there.
Yep, great to see. So you've got you're what we joked about. You're in this tiny lull at the moment. So focusing perhaps on Canada next year, what's sort of the time scale? Yeah. Are you looking now at booking for next year? Are you making physical plans for next year? What sort of preparation goes into making your Canadian Grand Prix happen?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, for me, well, I could tell you like from an overall event perspective, just because although I'm not a full-time employee of Canadian Grand Prix anymore, still involved with the sponsorship team. And so I know essentially it's sort of like doing the post-mortem type thing right now, post-event type thing. But grandstand tickets are already can already be renewed right now. I mean, do not waste any time. Everyone, literally, I think the next
go out there and buy your ticket.
Yeah, I always say get them while they're excited, right?
Exactly.
And then local hospitality, as we call it, which is everything except Paddock Club, goes on sale in September. So that, a couple months, and then that'll go into full swing. And we have a number of clients in the local hospitality clubs as well. And then Paddock Club will go on sale in December, mid-December, when the current season wraps up. May go on sale a bit earlier, but because again, that Paddock Club is run by Formula One, not the Canadian Grand Prix. All of the Paddock Club passes for all the events go on sale at the same time when the current season wraps up. So, but
I'm glad I don't work in that office.
Yeah, no, talk about we get all worked up over 3 or 4 races. Just imagine releasing everything at once. It's insane. But they're amazing. The team that we work with directly at Formula One on the hospitality side of things, unbelievable. I always I'm wondering you guys get back to us so quickly. I mean, there's no way there's got to be a few more people that you're getting back to other than me. They do an amazing job. They make us feel very special, which is good. But yeah, so really from our perspective, going on sale in December for Paddock Club, and that's for the Canada race. But leading up to that, we're essentially taking reservations that if people want to put down, well, not necessarily a deposit, but put down their name.
Get their name down.
And then the one thing which is not a very quick sale, which takes months and months and months, is the sponsorship side of things. So typically companies are setting their next year's budgets late in that calendar year. So come October, November, December for Canada, we'll be very busy trying to get sponsorship deals done for the following year. But then on top of all this Canadian stuff, obviously the US Grand Prix in Austin is in October, and then Vegas is in November. So you're sort of you're dealing with 2025 Canada at the same time while dealing with 2024 Vegas and Austin. So, it's a fun little way to do things. It's you got to put on different hats at different parts of the day.
I can imagine. And you've got all these different things happening, and I'm sure there's different experiences and different learnings from all of them. And you talk about this great team that's in Formula One that's assisting you with the Paddock, creating the Paddock Club thing and assisting you or whatever. There's got to be ideas as to bounce back and forth as to how you make steps forward and how you can not change, improve the experience for people. Is that an ongoing thought as to, is there need to always be what can we do better next year for the returning customer?
Yeah, for sure. And look, I mean, all these years you're okay, we've figured it out this year. We've been doing it all these years. They're having a temporary event meaning it's not when you go to as you would call it in your a football match, it's a set stadium. You go in, you go out, everything's the same. But for an F1 race, you're taking over this huge circuit and you're building grandstands, hospitality, this, that, and the other. So every year we think we've figured it out. There's always a curveball, right? There's always something that comes up. So we always reach out to our clients within a few days of the event to see can anything be improved? And there's usually, look, when you're paying I always say when you're paying a lot of money, you're allowed to be fussy, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's, we should use different champagne glasses next year. Okay, we'll
whatever. Yep.
But
customer's always right. Just go with it.
Exactly. So yeah, there's always room for improvement, and we communicate that right to Formula One, so they're aware of it. And then from the Canadian Grand Prix event perspective, same thing, surveys go out right away. what can be done for next year. And I know the customer service team that we work with very closely there, I mean, they take all those comments like very seriously and try to address them for the next year, because the Canadian Grand Prix is on, like I said, it's a temporary setup. So for the site starts to be built in March of the year of the race, and the race is in June. So up until March, it's just a municipal park where you can go ride your bike or walk your dog literally on the start finish line where Max Verstappen crossed, a few months before.
That's proper Formula One. That's the way Formula One should be, to me anyway.
There's something about it, and it's great because the track is obviously there, which can be used as like a people bike on it. But they keep the start finish line painting there, like the start finish line.
Soulugil.
Yeah, exactly. So you always see the bikers, they speed up a little bit when they're going past that. Yeah.
Well, that's it. There you go. A scrap of tarmac and some white paint, doing the promotional work. 365 days of the year.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot of like work that goes into in the off season. I mean, like any event, right? It's not like this is anything too crazy. I mean, I have friends and colleagues working in like the golf industry, and I kind of poke fun at them. Oh, come on, it's just a golf course setting up for a big, like the Canadian Open golf tournament. Like,
it's already got a clubhouse and everything. What else is there?
Yeah, you're fine. But yeah, the amount of planning for any big scale event with hundreds of thousands of people, is a lot of work.
Indeed. Well, you'll have crazy busy months ahead of you. Mm-hmm. Outside of the motorsport scene, are you involved business-wise in any other branches of life?
So my company, Canada Sport Marketing, we used to be involved more on the sponsorship side of things with other events, but because the Paddock Club has just sort of really consumed most of our time and business, sort of veering off of that. But there's a few, like the Toronto Indy, for example. We were working on the sponsorship side of things for them, and then there's an event called Drive Festival, which is at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, which actually, a little trivia, used to be the where the Canadian Grand Prix was held, which is
Mosport.
Yeah, Mosport.
Yes, yeah. Mosport. Yeah.
Perfect. So there's an event there that we have been involved with on the sponsorship. But right now, honestly, it's sort of a boring answer, but it's just Paddock Club, a little bit of F1 sponsorship when we get the time for it.
That's always the way in business, isn't it? You find the route and you just have to go with it. Yeah,
exactly.
Just whatever does the numbers, just follow that path.
Yeah, but I'm glad that you're familiar with Mosport, because that's a fun track.
Yeah. Oh well, famous Can-Am, and as you say, Formula One was there. Jackie Stewart won there, I think. It was going about sort of 70 to 73, and that sort of region. Yeah.
Going back to where I was talking about my dad watching, my dad was at that race and with Jackie Stewart, so he's always fantastic about that.
Fantastic. And the event is held there. Is it current racing? Is it a festival? Or
it's actually they do still have some pretty good racing there. Like there's a NASCAR series there, and a few others. But this one's actually called Drive Festival. It's where you if you want to try a McLaren or a Ferrari, you can drive down the track, and there's a number of activations and exhibits and that stuff. I mean, just speaking about it, I mean, it makes me want to almost get back involved with it. It's a fantastic event, just a matter of timing.
Yeah. Most sports are bound to be a fantastic place to hold a classic event. There's got to be room for like a Canadian Goodwood or something at most sport.
Well, yeah, and that's actually funny you said that. I probably didn't explain it very well, but this event, Drive Festival, is some people are starting to call it the Canadian Goodwood, because on top of that, they have this thing called the Dream Car Speed Run, where people get it's like the Goodwood style type things where you
excellent.
So there's a bit of everything. You can drive a Ferrari actually on one track, or you can watch the Dream Car Speed Run on the other track. So
brilliant.
Yeah, you should come on down, check it out.
That sounds like a plan. Why not? Well, I'm listening to all this crazy business and sport and whatever. Do you have any downtime? I was, is there room for any? Is there room for any hobbies? Is it crazy life?
Well, like the stereotypical Canadian, played hockey all my life, ice hockey, and I still do play in a men's league. We all think we still have hockey careers, but sadly, I think someone videotaped the game like a couple of years ago, and we watched it. We're like, "This is embarrassing to look at."
It's always the way. Everybody, you're still 19 in your head. It's always the same.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean that's sort of like my one hobby when I have time.
Yeah.
And then married with two girls as well, 12 and 9 years old daughters. Excellent. So their hobbies are now my hobbies.
Always the way with family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Actually, I'm a soccer coach now, or as you guys call it, football. So
brilliant.
As crazy as it may sound, we got a Canadian soccer coach here coaching my girls. sort of learning as I go, to be honest with you.
and I'm wondering what's happening because I'm from Ireland, you're from Canada. All of England will be watching England in the football at the moment. So I'm actually amazed we have anybody watching our stream live. Thank goodness for replays on YouTube. We'll have to spam the bejesus out of listening to socials just to make sure people catch up on it.
Yeah, I know it's big Euro Cup, big big
all happening. Well, here, if people want to catch up with you, Ryan, if people want to avail themselves of your services, what's the best way to get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in touch with your company or find out what's happening?
Yeah, like pretty very active on LinkedIn. That's sort of I know a lot of people are, it's got to be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. For the type of clientele that we're typically working with, it's all about LinkedIn. So easiest.
I find LinkedIn very strong at the minute, actually, because I'm not so much business, but I'm finding out numbers wise compared to what Twitter's doing now. LinkedIn is very strong generally, and has
good
become much wider reaching. It appears rather than just business boards talking business things.
Exactly, and it's a great tool. I mean, we'll any like race that we're at, we'll put up a ton of videos and content from the Paddock Club, which I know people kind of like to see the behind the scenes. I mean, they're generally not that interested in my video of the track because they can be watching it on TV, right? But they want to see, okay, turn the camera behind the track. What's going on back there, right? Behind the curtain type thing. So we put a lot of content up there. But yeah, to look up myself on LinkedIn, which is Ryan McCallum, or the company Canada Sport Marketing. That's the best way. And if you want to like DM myself or the Canada Sport Marketing page, myself or someone will get back to you pretty shortly. And if you're looking for Paddock Club passes, anyone, we'll make sure we take good care of you. And it doesn't just have to be in Canada or the US. It can be really all over the world. I mean, we have a number of clients going to Austria, which I think is the next race. So.
Fantastic. You're saying about people going to Austria. I'm considering going to Monza, and Georgie, when she was promoting this, put it up on Twitter saying live from the Paddock Club. And I retweeted it and said, just for clarification, I'm not in the Paddock Club. I'm normally the guy climbing underneath the fence to get into the paddock. That's kind of my level of experience, So I may be heading to Monza, but
cool.
I'll wave to the Paddock Club rather than get involved.
Well, hey, maybe we'll find a way to get you in underneath that fence. We'll see.
Well, you never know. Well, here, Ryan, it has been fantastic to chat this evening. Thanks so much for making time for us, and it's been great to catch up.
Awesome. Yeah, no, great. Thanks for taking the time, and hopefully whoever you're cheering for in this football game, they win.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. And guys, as we wind up, thanks so much for your comments and everything that's been happening. Of course, follow us on the socials as well. Georgie's Stripping the Dipping. Subscribe to the YouTube, all the usual things. Smash that button, all the things that the young people say. Be sure to follow us along and catch us next time. But for the time being, that's us for tonight on this YouTube Live. Good evening.